All right, the Reds, it's the preview show, previewing Liverpool v Watford at Anfield on Wednesday night. With me to do that, I've got Mo Stewart and Dan Austin. Boys, Watford then, there's an argument here to say we're literally playing them at the worst possible time. They're 7th in the league, 40 points, they've won the last 3. Their last game was away to Cardiff and they won 5-1. And people are writing articles on the internet comparing them to Barcelona. So that's good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. Always great to hear it. The worst thing about that article is I found myself reading bits of it and going, well, actually, yeah. And what I mean by that is that they're good on the ball. All of them seem to be good on the ball. And for a team that likes to press, that can definitely be a problem. But you're right, they're flying at the moment. Not only scoring a lot of goals, but the manner of those goals they scored against Cardiff were really impressive.
Yeah, the fourth one I think was particularly nice, wasn't it? How they did it, yeah.
And it was like a 26 pass move, which is obviously sounds great if you don't know where the pass is going, but it says that they can hold on to the ball for a long time, which again might be something that we come up against. With the caveat that they were playing against Cardiff. All rolled into that. But
there is that.
In general, their form has been good. They're getting some of the better players back. Pereira's come back from injury. So yes, this period of Watford could be the best Watford we see of the season.
But Dan, Liverpool are pretty good at Anfield, obviously. It's what this title challenge has been built on pretty much. I know we're good away as well, but Anfield we've been very good for a long time now. And Watford's last 6, you know, yeah, it's impressive that they beat Cardiff 5-1, but it's Cardiff. Before that, they beat QPR 1-0 in the FA Cup. They beat Everton 1-0 and they're shite. They drew 0-0 with Brighton. They lost to Tottenham and they beat Newcastle in the FA Cup also. I think they haven't lost too much, but when they have lost, it's been to Tottenham, it's been to Chelsea as well, hasn't it? Do you expect them to cause any problems? The bookies are making them 10-1 shots, and you know you don't really see too many skimp bookies, so that's based on something, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they can definitely cause Liverpool problems, but in terms of what we're expecting from them off the back of a really good result, Bournemouth came to Anfield after beating Chelsea 4-0 and were played off the park for the vast majority of the game. So as much as, a club's previous form counts, even when you play against another really good team and do well against them, it's hard to infer what that means when you actually turn up to Anfield and play against a team that plays in a different way to anyone else that you'll come across in that season. I think the away game was a really interesting indicator because for probably 60-65 minutes of that game, it was even. And there's a contentious penalty call with Andy Robertson and Dale Afeo, isn't there? And if that gets given, Liverpool could well end up losing that game or certainly not winning it. But in the end, the scoreline ends up 3-0. It looks really comfortable. But Watford played really well, apart from the sort of top-level sides that we've played against this season. Watford were probably one of the best of the rest, I think. Them and Wolves, maybe, which is in keeping with the league table as well. So they've definitely got a load of talented players, and I think what kind of sets them apart from the likes of Bournemouth or Leicester or Brighton or those sides that are kind of playing on that same mini division but towards the bottom end of it, is that when Watford get injuries, they've got quite a few good players that can come in. So, for example, Tom Cleverley would probably start every week for a few teams in this division, but he doesn't get a game for them because they've got Capoue and Decore who are really quite good. They've got, like, Femenia, the fullback, who comes in quite a bit. They've got Ken Sema, who seemed like he was going to be really good for a while, but then ended up back on the bench because they've got other talented wide players. So they can definitely cause Liverpool problems in the same way that Bournemouth should have been able to cause Liverpool problems and had a bit of a bright start. They forced that save, didn't they, through Fraser against Alisson, but I think it should be fine. I think as much as they can cause problems to Liverpool, if Liverpool play to the best of their ability, if Liverpool defend like they have done just in the past few games, because it's from an attacking perspective that we've had a bit of concern, but if Liverpool just keep defending to the same level, then they'll be all right, because if they can stop Lewandowski, if they can stop Marcus Rashford, they can stop Troy Deeney and Isaac Success.
I mean, I was going to come on to Troy Deeney. I'm a fan of him. I like him.
He's a bit of Gareth Roberts, really, isn't he?
Imagine my shock.
He lets his mouth run off. He gets stuck in, you know what I mean? And he calls out people who he thinks hasn't got bollocks and things like that. I'm into all that.
Yeah.
But Liverpool don't get bullied anymore, do they? You know, that was always a thing for us. You know, I remember going to Watford and, you know, me and Neil famously had the character argument on the podcast, and it was after a shit result away to Watford, and I was fuming basically with our defence for being bullied by Watford. I mean, I don't think I'm tempted to fate to say that doesn't happen anymore, does it?
Well, Deeney himself doesn't think it's going to happen because he's come out and has had very, very nice things to say about Virgil van Dijk.
Say he sound, didn't he?
Yeah.
Says he smells nice, didn't he, I think? Was that Troy Deeney?
Yeah, it was, believe it or not. But you don't know, maybe he's playing possum on that one. But no, in all seriousness, yeah, I think when you look at our defenders now, even someone like Matip, who you would have said that about in previous games, he does seem to be getting a little bit tougher. I mean, obviously, position-wise, there's still issues, passing, dribbling, there's still issues. But you don't see him getting bullied as much as he used to. Maybe, again, playing alongside Virgil's allowed him to push his chest out a little bit more. But I would be surprised if that was their main tactic, Watford, to try and be aerial and bully us, because that's something that, like I say, we are getting better at. I mean, there are other areas that they'll probably look to attack than that, I'd say.
That game that I was referencing there, December 2015, we get beat 3-0 there. Since then, we've done pretty well against Watford. So, you know, we've got a 2-0 at Anfield, a 6-1 at Anfield, a 1-0 at Vicarage Road, a 3-3, which everyone will remember because everyone lost the shit. That was the first day of the season, August 2017. March 2018, 5-0, and then the one we talked about before, the 3-0 as well. So in terms of whether that has any kind of psychological effect, recent history says we do all right against Watford.
Yeah, and it could do, but I think the thing with them now is that they've had so much turnover of footballers, but also of managers. There are probably very few players there that played in those, like that 6-1 game a couple of years ago, or even in the 3-3. That was back when they had like Cabal and Gomez and players like that, wasn't it? So the likes of Deeney and stuff will have been around since then, and probably Cleverly. But beyond that, they've got so many new players. It's a manager who wasn't a part of that as well, and they play a completely different kind of football, because I think when they just about survived under Matsari, didn't they? And then they sacked him afterwards. And it felt like just a continuation of a downward spiral for them. And it felt inevitable that last season, when they end up swapping, getting rid of Silva and Gracia comes in, that was going to be another backward step. And it just hasn't happened. He's done like such a really, really good job there. The recruitment has been excellent as well. They've signed some players that every other team at sort of their club size in the division should be kicking themselves for not picking up themselves. And it means that, yes, in the last couple of games they've had a negative experience against Liverpool, but it's not like they're counting those 5 games where we've beaten them. It's only really 2 for the majority of the squad and the manager. And I'm sure that, even though they look at the 3-0 and think, well, we ended up getting done a bit there, and they scored some really good goals, and you know, we just have to sort of cop for that if we can't stop them. If they're going to score a 30-yard free kick, then you just have to say well done. But they'll also look at the manner of their performance in that game and say, you know what, we got...
First hour or so, they were fine.
We had them on the back foot for sort of maybe 20 minutes towards the end of the first half. They made quite a few chances. We were very much in the game. They were also in the game against Manchester City at Vicarage Road, where they very nearly, from 2-0 down, got it back to 2-2 and drew. So I don't think they'll have any kind of psychological barrier about playing Liverpool at Anfield. I don't think it'll work like that for them. It's just a case of whether they can play their natural game, or whether the fact that Liverpool are so good, the fact that Liverpool are top of the league, whether that kind of alters the way that they approach it, alters the way they play a bit.
I think in terms of psychology, the person I'm looking for most is Mo Salah, because he is one person who does have good memories, because obviously his first goal was that 3-3 we mentioned, and in the home game, that was when he basically ran rings around them.
Oh, he made Miguel Britos look like an idiot, didn't he? I think that might be the best that I've seen Mo Salah play for Liverpool. That Watford game, he was superb.
And I really hope that he's doing nothing except watching reruns of that game, because the kind of close control, sharpness that he showed in those games is the biggest thing that we need him to get back over the course of his next 11 games. So he's hoping that does have some effect.
Yeah, I mean, you have that, don't you? You have certain players seem to like playing certain clubs. And Mo's got 6 goals in 3 appearances against Watford, so watch out. Okay, here's Neil Atkinson. He's going to look at how the game may shape out in terms of tactics, in terms of what the managers might do. He's been speaking to Watford fans this week. For the rest of our content on podcast, on the website, you should be checking all that out. But here is Neil with the infamous tactics board.
Watford then, 5-1 winners against Cardiff on Friday. Do point that out, they'll have had 2 more rest days than Liverpool before the Wednesday fixture. Watford getting to kick off on Friday night against Cardiff and putting 5 past them. It's an excellent performance from them. It's worth pointing out it is away from home. Up front, Delafeu got himself a hat-trick and Deeney got a brace. It's good work, and that makes you think he won't be changing it before the visit to Anfield. Delafeu and Deeney did quite well in the return fixture at Vicarage Road earlier this season. There was a couple of times they nearly got in and couldn't quite make it happen. I'd expect this sort of lineup from Watford in this sort of shape, that front 2, Delafeu doing more bits, but Deeney's happy to drop in and roll his sleeves up as well, if we're honest about it. Foster in goal, their player of the season so far, supposedly. At right back, it'll be Janmaat. He's been getting ahead of Firmino in recent weeks, and I'd be surprised if that changes. He's gone Cathcart and Mariappa at centre-half. Cathcart's been as ever-present, but he constantly tries to change and who the other centre-back is. And speaking to Bradley Hayden on our Team Talk show, he said Watford were looking for a centre-back in January, couldn't find one that they wanted in the end. Left-back, Holebas is suspended, so it will be Messina in there, so that's what we can expect. I'd be really surprised if it isn't Decore and Capoue at the centre of midfield. There might be somewhere a temptation to rest Decore off the back of the fact that he's been injured recently, and they might think they need him for cup games to come and things like that, but ultimately Decore will want to play in this game, and he's so important to this Watford side. And tucked in quite close to them will be the wider midfielders. I think that Pereira probably starts. I'd be surprised if they rotate Pereira, although he might take the attitude that he'll rotate one for Liverpool and then one for the following weekend's game. Watford obviously don't have to play 2 games a week very often in the way in which they are doing through this little run. It was Pereira and Hughes against Cardiff. I think you may well see Ken Seamer come in for either of them. Possibly Tom Cleverley come in for either of them. The point about Seamer and Cleverley, I would say, is they're very, very stern footballers. Will Hughes will put himself about. And if you get Seamer and Cleverley, or some combination of Hughes, Seamer and Cleverley, and it's Pereira who drops out, that tells you that Watford are very much in for a battle at Anfield and want to get amongst Liverpool. But the front two will fancy it. They want to play some football. They are coming off the back of having scored 5 between them, assisting one another. That's the way a front two works. Deeney couldn't have been warmer about Deulofeu post-match, talked about his work rate in recent weeks and months. It'll be a tough game for Liverpool. They've got to get themselves back on the bike. It was a tough game when we went there. Give anything for a routine 2 or 3-0. Let's hope we get it.
Okay, so we've done all the Watford chat there, haven't we? Let's talk about the Reds. The Reds then do need to win this one. Obviously, we are in a title charge, a title challenge. We are top of the league by 1 point, and we want to stay there. So, does what happened at Old Trafford and the general fallout from that affect Liverpool in this game, or are you fully confident that they go out and sweep Watford aside?
It can do. It really can do. I think it's on a knife edge at the moment in terms of which way it goes. It depends on how they react, what exactly Klopp is saying to them pretty much exactly now on the training pitch, and how confident they still are in themselves to be able to turn it around. Because as much as you can compartmentalise the result in the context of the whole season and say that that is still a decent result, the way it was got and the lack of sync, particularly with the front players, that's something that is still concerning, and if it does continue, then you're probably going to see more games like that than the ones against Bournemouth. So as much as this is a good game to potentially revitalise all of those attacking instincts, there is still going to be that nervous tension until we start seeing it on the pitch.
I was going to say that, Dan, like, you know, there's an argument to just be saying we should just be happy if we win, but the reality is that as a, you know, I know there's millions of Liverpool fans, but they want to see a performance as well as a result, don't they? And I think that feels quite important now, because one of the issues about Old Trafford is, yeah, the point's okay and the point's all right, and you know, you take it before you know anything and all that, but the context of the actual game, it felt they were there for the taking and we should have beat them. And so that's where the question mark is about the actual performance from Liverpool lately.
Yeah, and I think if it's a mentality thing, basically. It's not a case of trying to get the goal difference back up or anything like that. It's not a tangible physical thing. It's more the mentality of, if you scrape a 1-0 against Watford with, say, some sort of fortunate goal, then your last 3 games, you've had 2 0-0s and had one where you've won 1-0 and just about got the points that you need, but it still doesn't feel like you're in the rhythm that you need. It doesn't feel like you're playing the style of football that you really want to be playing. It doesn't feel like the players are doing the jobs correctly, what they're being sent out to do. So I think the Bournemouth game was big for that, because I certainly went into it. I think most people went into it just saying, just win. Yeah. Because we're drawn with West Ham, we're drawn with Leicester, just win. But then actually the way it turned out felt perfect, because there was a feel-good atmosphere in the ground. The players were really, really comfortable with each other, all doing the roles in the way that they were supposed to. Looked like they were linking up perfectly. It looked like the sort of break that they had in between them games really worked for them. The last 2, it's hard to criticise individuals for playing particularly poorly over the course of the 2 games, but just the rhythm between them hasn't been there. And I think that's what we want to see more than anything. So even if they win 1-0 and play really well, that's fine as well. But it's just a case of you don't want to go into the derby thinking we haven't played well really there in 3 games, or we haven't attacked well in 3 games, and now we're playing a really hard game where we're playing against a side and a ground that just wants to stop us here. Like, they're delighted with the draw because their season isn't important. They just want to stop Liverpool from winning these 3 points, winning the title, etc. You need to go into that with a bit more freedom, I think, and feel like you've got a bit of form in your back pocket. So, yeah, as much as it's all about points and you just want to win as many games as possible between now and the end of the season, I think playing well and having an attack that's got a bit of coherence to it and looks like it's got ideas is really, really important in this one.
We're a little bit in the dark, obviously, Mo, in terms of where people are in injuries and fitness and things like that. But, you know, we did see Firmino limp out of Old Trafford on crutches, so that doesn't look good. I think we're probably on safe ground to say it's unlikely that we see him play. So what do you want to see from the team? How are you going to replace Firmino? Give us a team for what?
Well, I was doing a little bit of thinking about this on the way here, and
Good.
The idea, yeah, you know, just for you, but I think it's clear to say that from the United game, having Sturridge as the furthest man forward wasn't really working, because he wasn't able to find any space. He wasn't able to stretch the pitch. He wasn't able to close down the defenders when they were on the ball. So if we are going to go with Sturridge, I would say play him behind Salah, because Salah still has that pace to stretch it. So you can still play those deep balls if you want, but then that almost allows him to have a little pocket space for him to work in and do his link-up play, which he's still good at.
Have you seen anything, though, from Sturridge in recent times that warrants the conversation that he's even starting this game?
The reason why we're having this conversation is because Firmino's not there. I think that's abundantly clear. If Firmino was there, he probably wouldn't even be questioned as an option. But the fact of the matter is that we need him.
So you're going for Sturridge ahead of Shaqiri, ahead of
Origi? I might be tempted to play Shaqiri as well and go back to the 4-2-3-1, have maybe one of Fabinho, Wijnaldum and Henderson rested, have Keita alongside Fabinho at the base. Go be a little bit more attacking.
Like it.
Just go for it.
What are you thinking, Dan? Any different to what Mo said there?
A bit different. I think I'd almost be tempted to... We've used it as a bit of a reset a few times. We used it at West Ham to great effect a couple of years ago when he just lashes the diamond in, out the blue. And he only ever tends to use it when he's got a bit of an injury problem up front and he thinks, well, this can just get us through one game. And I wondered if he might just think about that again, because none of his actual forward options, Sturridge or Origi, does he want to start. You can just tell that he won't want to play either of them because he doesn't seem to have much trust in either of them anyway. Even if Liverpool are struggling for goals in games, it's quite rare that he even brings them off the bench at times, never mind to actually start with them as an alternative. So I wondered if he could go for, say the same back four and midfield 3, for example. Salah and Mane as a 2 sort of up front, a bit more playing inside than what they would usually, and Shaqiri as a 10 behind them, or Keita as a 10 behind them, and try and get through it like that. Because my original thought was just to put Shaqiri and put him on the right and put Salah down the middle, but I think you just lose loads from Mohamed Salah down the middle. I know he's played it to good effect a few times this season, but by and large I just think he's well more effective coming off the right or playing in between the full-back and the centre-half. He did that brilliantly against Bournemouth, so I think... Yeah, I want to avoid Origi and Sturridge, to be honest. So my choice is between Keita and Shaqiri, and if possible, I'd like that player to be playing inside with Mane and Salah as 2 forwards.
I mean, one of the problems was at Old Trafford was predictability, really, wasn't it? You know, so much ended up going through Milner. He just started lashing crosses into the box. Hardly any of them found a Liverpool man, and United were happy with that. They were happy for that pass to go to Milner because they knew pretty much nothing was coming from it next, and that was one of the big problems on the day. So we need something that's a bit unpredictable about this side, don't we? I mean, you know, it's a bit mad that it came to this, but you know, one of the highlights from Old Trafford is when Matip decides to turn into John Barnes and skin half the team. So we need that unpredictability.
Yeah.
I mean, you're seeing Souness talking about it on Sky, saying, you know, he doesn't think enough's coming from midfield in terms of creativity, in terms of goals and things like that. And there is an argument for that, isn't there?
Well, there is an argument, and there's also an argument to say that probably the midfielder who's been showing that the most over the last month, Naby Keita, didn't get any minutes at Old Trafford, which surprised me. I would have given him at least some. So I think he is a must to come back in because, again, when he's at his best, he can offer that something different. I think Trent is an absolute must to come back in. I mean, it's almost like a given, but we haven't even mentioned it, but his speed and hopefully his better delivery than Milner will be key because the way Watford do like to set up, I do expect there to be the space to be out wide. They do kind of go quite narrow, even with Pereira, who does tend to go out wide, but there will be space for them to advance down the channels. So I think that will be really, really important for him to be on there and to be at full pace, to be able to run up and down that pitch and really give them a problem. But yeah, that would be my main areas.
Okay. Well, let's finish up with predictions then, Dan.
I'm going to go 2-0 to Liverpool.
Mo?
I'm going to say also 2-0 to Liverpool. I was going to say 2-1, but I'm thinking no, we have been defending well recently, so I'll give us that clean sheet.
I'm sticking with what I said on the free podcast earlier this morning. 3-0 to Liverpool, I'm going. We're going to finish up with Inside the Anfield app, Inside TAW now, which is some quick fire questions at one of our key contributors, just so you get to know them a little bit more. So that's been the preview show. Thanks to Dan, thanks to Mo. Up the fucking Reds.
Fratton Park, good laugh on the way down, bit of a crazy ground, mad mural on the way into the away end, and nice old ground, good atmosphere in there, and probably won't be going there for a while, but yeah, best away. Favourite goal is Steven Gerrard with the equaliser in FA Cup final 2006. Didn't think it was going to happen, and obviously it did, and just unbelievable goal, but probably one of the best goals I've ever seen, but also with the time and the fact we're going to win the FA Cup, I think that's my favourite goal. Favourite kit, 1989 shirt goes close. The FA Cup winning one, I remember my mum putting that in my bedroom, being buzzing with that, but and the Hitachi one, that was when I was a baby, I was given that one, but the best kit is undoubtedly Liverpool's 1990 home shirt. I still wear a replica copy of that every now and again, and that is the best shirt by a mile. First match, set the bar far too high. It was the John Barnes show against QPR, so probably never going to see a better player than John Barnes. I'm probably never going to see a better Liverpool team than that one. And set the bar a bit too high to be a season ticket holder at Liverpool, but what a first game to be at. Funniest moments at a match, cliche, it just has to be Jordan Pickford, doesn't it? That's the funniest thing to ever happen at Anfield, I think. Player that I love to hate might be a strange one. I can't stand Harry Kane. Don't like the look of him, don't like the way that he comes across, don't like the way that he plays, don't like the way that he dives. I don't even think he's one of them that sometimes you say the player you love to hate, if he played for you, you'd love him. I wouldn't. Anyone who puts his golden boot on his Christmas tree and on Christmas cards and all the rest of it, I can't be doing with that. Pre-match pint, quite often I don't have the luxury of going for one, sadly, but when I do, I go to the Merebank because those who know me know that I don't park my car, I abandon it, and I basically abandon it on a pavement nearby, so it's nice and handy for me to go in there. The worst player that I've ever seen, certainly in a red shirt, I think Shaun Dundee. I might be wrong, but I think it was Leicester at home and United were away to Juventus. And it just showed how far we'd fallen, unfortunately, where United are coming back from behind to get a place in the 1999 European Cup final. We got beat by Leicester at home, I think. Ian Marshall was 107 or something scored, and Shaun Dundee, this sort of almost next Michael Owen type player that we'd signed, who we never saw, and then we realised why we never saw him, because he was absolutely horrendous.